Good afternoon. Welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. I hope you can all hear me. I hope I'm being relayed in Dolby, all surround stereo, right to the back of the room for the first time ever at our events. Welcome. Good afternoon, I'm David Gordon. Welcome to BSN. Welcome to our April edition of our networking group. For those of you regulars, welcome to facing the other way around, because normally we speak at that end of the room. So for those of you who are still facing that way, turn 180 degrees and you'll see where I'm speaking from. In another change in technology, you will see we also have audio-visual and slides. Thank you. So goodness knows what's going to happen from here on in. But assuming everything works smoothly, I welcome today St James's Place. Jed Wilson, as you know, and have many of you met a number of times over the last few years, and his colleague Darren Stone, who you're going to meet for the first time today. Now, for those of you who haven't been here before, this is a networking group. It's an opportunity for you to meet fellow colleagues, get your name out there in the market, but also an opportunity for us as DG Law to provide you a little bit of value. And part of that is bringing in people on a monthly basis to add you some level of added value, some level of information, albeit over a very restricted period of time, because we're very strict with our people. 10-15 minutes max, because I know you're all desperate for your lunch. To give you a little bit of nugget of information you can take away with you for the rest of the month, and hopefully add value not only to your lives, but to your clients' lives. So, I've gone through, we're going to go through a little bit of process today. Darren and Jed are going to talk us through what they do for the clients, and as this little spreadsheet indicates, there's some numbers and analysis that goes with it. Now, I've personally gone through the machine, the Darren Stone and Jed Wilson machine. I'm pleased to say I've come out the other side. Now, all of it was working out really at what point, and looking at the red, I'm pleased to say this is not my analysis, is it? Someone else, right, good. Because this person here, I think, I won't steal the thunder, it's all about when you run out of cash, basically. It's when in your life do you run out of cash? When is that red letter day? Now, I personally had my flight booked to Switzerland, one-way ticket, at about 85. That was my kind of goal. I'm pleased to say, thanks to Darren's advice and analysis, that it might be a little bit later than that, so I'm relieved. If I can block that booking and postpone it. Now, for you guys, I don't know, it could be next week, who knows? Depends how hard you live your life. But I think what this is all about is about kind of how do you organise your finances and what can these guys do to help you manage that better and ultimately help you and your clients. So that's more than enough for me. I'm going to hand you over to Jed, who I've known, I've now known him longer than I have not known him, by some way. Jed and I have known each other since we were this high or this thing. So things have moved on. I'm pleased to welcome Jed and his practice. I'll hand you over. Jed Wilson.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you for coming today. And today we're going to talk about magic numbers and tax traps, because when it comes to advice, if you want a good, comfortable retirement, you want to try and get as much tax-free cash as you can, tax-free income. And to do that, you need to know how to navigate through all the tax traps to get a nice net monthly incoming every month. And wealth management has come into the 21st century now, and as I practice, what we specialize in is cash flow modeling. So I'm now a member of Darren's practice in Holborn. We're a full service sort of wealth management firm, and this is what we lead with. We lead with cash flow modeling. I've been coming to this event for 3 or 4 years now, and I know, I would say, about 80% of the regulars. And it's a great group, and I'm here for business, and to meet people. And I want to do something different. I want to try and engage with people so they really fully understand what we actually offer. And so what we're going to actually give an offering at the end of this. We're going to give an opportunity for you to experience cash flow modeling. We typically charge £500 to put a base plan together, but we're going to waive that for people here today because we want people to experience it. So as we understand it, not necessarily do business with us directly, but people who come here typically are service-led professionals. They provide a service. They're insolvency practitioners, they could be accountants, they could be life coaches, they could be FX people. but they're not typically purchasers of the products that we give, but they have big networks, even the big influencers, and we want to engage with you so you understand at first hand what we do, so you can then refer your clients to us or your friends or people who could need this sort of stuff. Darren's going to be talking more about the nuts and bolts of cash flow modelling and the importance of knowing your number, your magic number. And it's quite incredible what we can do these days. So I'm going to hand over to Darren, and he's going to introduce himself and introduce the practice.
Thanks, Jeff. I think this could be possibly my most expensive lunch ever if we're waiving £500 for everyone, but I'll go with it, Jeff. So I'm going to stand this side just to introduce what we're talking about here. So I can promise you financial planning is not exciting. There's nothing new we're going to talk about with products. We do all the things, all the boring stuff, the pensions, the ISAs, the VCTs, the EI, all that kind of stuff. But what we try and introduce to clients is cash flow modelling. So everybody right here, right now, has a base plan. So we know, if I take you to the left-hand side, we know if you give us the facts and the figures of what you spend on a monthly basis, now that could be different for everyone, from education fees for children to someone who's in part-time retirement, pretty much everyone knows what they've got coming in and what they've got going out. And that gives you the figure on the left, which is the black line. Now as soon as you give us that figure, on the far left it says, for this example, you're 45. So we pretty much know, unless you're telling us something different, that we can indexation that forward with indexation, saying that nothing's really going to change, you're still going to want the same holidays, you're still going to live that same sort of lifestyle, and as time gradually moves on, it becomes expensive, because that's what inflation does. What we then know is that when you get to your retirement age, it all changes, because your income drops off, and now you're reliant on what you've put by over those years, whether you've saved into defined benefit pensions, money purchase pensions, ISAs, and so on and so forth. So the question we ask is, when's your date and what's your number? Oh, sorry, 1 second. Because if someone comes to us at 45 and says, I really want to retire at 55, well, if we do absolutely nothing and produce a base plan, can it happen? Does your predicted forecast of what you've got in place already get you to retire at 55, or do you need to be more realistic to the fact that you might need to work a few more years? Or the worst thing in the world is, actually, do you know what? I'm probably going to have to give up that membership at the Ned. I'm going to have to give up that membership wherever it is. Or, could be worse than that, giving up season tickets. And that really isn't the point where you want to be when you're looking forward to your retirement. And it's pretty likely that when you retire, you're going to want to do more holidays and so on and so forth. So, the very next piece we do is we say to you, give us all of your information. Give us all of your information. Do you know what I didn't say? Give us all of your information, and what that enables us to do is write to every provider you're with, whether you've got pensions with AXA, Friends Life, whatever. We'll do all the analytics, all the forecasts to show you what those plans you have in place already are offering you at 57, 61, 65. But we start layering things in. So, for example, if you look at the blue line, the dark blue navy line at 67, that's your state pension provision. So we would get you to complete things like a BR19, so through the Department of Work and Pensions, and that's going to tell you right now what your state pension forecast is, and it's changed. Less than a year ago, you could have retired with 30 years national insurance contributions with a full state pension. Those rules have changed. You now need 35 years full national insurance contributions, and if you've opted out through SERPs over any years, they will start deducting your full state pension. So the question is, what can you do about that? Well, you can do voluntary contributions and you can work a few more years, but our sort of guide for all of you is just get those figures. It's there, it's a known, it's what's going to happen. And for some of you in the room, you will be retiring at 65. For others, it will be 66. For others, it will be 67. And we combine this with, if you've got a joint household, husbands, wives, because really you need a realistic way of saying, is it likely to be that when I'm 65 I'm going to retire, but my wife's retiring 5 years later than me? Probably not. We're probably going to retire at the same time. And how does that look? So all of that is pretty basic, You give us that information, and this plan is only as good as the information you give us. So the more you give us, the better the detail these reports produce. But then we start getting into the tax traps and the ways we give financial planning. And there are some huge changes. So I'm going to just draw your attention to a couple. We have clients who, through bonuses and salaries, earn some serious money. Nice, good position to be in. If they earn £210,000 a year, the most they can put into a pension is £10,000. Fact. It's a rule called taker relief. It came in 3 or 4 years ago. So what happens is everyone here can put in £40,000 into a pension every year. As soon as you're earning more than 150, it starts tapering down. So you've got a massive problem. You're comfortable earning 200 and something thousand pounds a year. Now all of a sudden you can only put £10,000 into your pensions. How do you retire early? You're only putting in 10,000. These goals aren't going to happen. So you need to start looking at alternatives, which obviously we can talk to you about. But the biggest one probably is this, and it's probably the one I'll finish on, because it's the one where financial planning, the book was ripped up a few years ago. What happened in a budget was someone said, in the money purchase world of personal pensions, you can do whatever you want with your money. You can spend it all today, you get taxed heavily, you can take all your tax-free cash out, you can literally do what you want with your pensions. So these personal pensions became an amazing place to leave your finances flexibly. But the biggest part of the rule book was, when you used to have to buy an annuity, it died with you. Your pension died with you, unless you put a bit of a guarantee in there to pass it to your spouse. Well now, whatever's in your pension pots, no matter how much is in there, you can now have a succession plan. You can leave it to your spouse, you can leave it to your children, and it can pass on to the next generation. Now the biggest part of this, if you've got a serious pension pot and you're starting to pass it down the generations, this is effectively outside of inheritance tax. So the question would be, why the hell, when you retire, would the first place you go to get your money is a pension pot? In actual fact, it's the last place you'd go and get some money from. So in our cash flow modelling, what happens is, at 67, this client here, we've showed the traditional format of, yeah, you dip into your pension pot, dip into your pension pot, dip into your pension pot, then you move into your savings and investments, maybe you'll downsize your property, and then eventually you're living outside of your means, you've got a shortfall, there's a problem. What we're now saying to clients is, actually, when you retire, what you want to be doing is taking all your ISAs, spending whatever stuff you've got elsewhere. The very last place you want to be drawing money from is your pensions, because you can pass that on to the next generation, to your spouse, and so on and so forth. So this exercise doesn't really change anything with financial planning. We still do. We're a chartered firm. We've got every license there is. So a chartered firm is different to a chartered individual. I'm chartered, but the actual practice, whatever products you want to talk about, we do everything. But the problem is, every person is an individual. So what we do is we start with this. Let's work out what your base plan is. How realistic is it that your number, your magic number, is achievable? And some people, when we ask them, when do you want to retire? The answer is, I don't know, I haven't really thought about it. That's not a good place to start when you're talking about your personal finances. What it should be is, I'd love to retire at 57, can it happen? And then we can try and show you that bit right at the far right, when it says on here, at 82, 83, this person's starting to run out of money and there's a problem. You want that moving as far along as you can, so that your money lasts as long as possible. We can factor in anything. We can factor in long-term care, we can factor in gifts to children for anything up to estate planning, right down to deposits for homes. I'm conscious that I've only got a small amount of time today to sort of give you a very complex overview of everyone's finances. All I would say to you is that there is a one pager of what we do. Even if you don't do anything about it now, the questions you should be asking yourself is, if I've got my own financial advisor, you've probably got a trusted relationship. The first place you should go is back to them and say, can we do some of this? And if they say we haven't got the tools to do that, then question that relationship, because what are they doing? The next part of it is, if you want to step forward to do something like this, we are waiving that 500 fee. And that, that's to support Jed through the process. It's not a free sort of let's get in. It does take time to do all of that analysis and present you with a report. So I would say to you, even if you don't do it now, it's something you should be doing, because it should put you in a position where you and your household know where they are for the future. Estate planning is a big one, but it doesn't come till much further down the journey, and you need to think about your gifting process as well. Because I'll give you an example. We always come across clients right at the end. They say, oh, I've got this money now, I want to start gifting it to my children. There's this 7-year rule. No, you can gift your children maybe £400 or £500 a month, and it's exempt. Doesn't even come under the rules of the 7-year rule. And the client goes, oh, I've got 4 kids. Why would they all want £100 each? That's ridiculous. They wouldn't want that. No, but what you can do is insure yourself for the £400,000 inheritance tax liability you've got. Pay the £400, pay for the trust plan that covers that bill, and they'll be happy with that. You've just cleared your inheritance tax bill through regular giftings. And you just think about things in a different way. So, yeah, I'd like to thank you very much for your time today. We have got a video what explains all of this, which we can send you on an email. We couldn't do it because they didn't have the Bluetooth on there, so you'd have had the video but no sound, which is not the greatest. So if anyone wants that video, explains it in a little bit more detail. I'm sticking around for a little while if anyone's got any questions, but thanks for your time.